My son-in-law stood in my living room, his real estate agent beside him, and told me I had 30 days to pack my things. "The house is going on the market," Marcus said, sliding a folder across my coffee table. "We've already had it appraised. You can't maintain this place anymore, David. It's not safe." I looked down at the papers, then back at Marcus. My daughter Sarah had been gone for 3 years now. Cancer, the same cancer that had taken my wife Catherine 20 years before that. And now, Marcus, who I'd welcomed into my family, who I'd taught how to change his own oil in my garage, was standing in the home I'd built my life in, telling me it was time to go. "What are you talking about?" I managed to say, my voice steady despite the confusion swirling in my head. "This is my house. I bought it in 1982. Actually, the real estate agent stepped forward, a woman with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. "There are some complications with the title. I'm Jennifer Holbrook, by the way. I specialize in estate properties." She opened her own folder, pulled out documents I'd never seen before. "Your daughter took out a reverse mortgage on this property 3 years ago to cover her medical expenses. According to these papers, the bank now holds significant equity, and with your age and the condition of the property, they're calling the loan." I felt my chest tighten. Sarah wouldn't have done that. We talked about everything during her illness. She knew this house meant everything to me, not just because Catherine and I had saved for years to buy it, but because of what I'd built here. "That's not possible," I said. "Sarah didn't have access to my title. This house has been in my name alone since Catherine died." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, listen, I know this is hard, but Sarah was desperate. The treatments weren't covered. She came to me, and I helped her figure out the paperwork. You weren't thinking clearly back then. You signed some documents. Remember? For her care?" I did remember signing papers, medical authorizations, insurance forms, endless bureaucracy, while my daughter was dying. But a reverse mortgage? No, that never happened. "Even if that were true," I said slowly, "a reverse mortgage doesn't work that way. I'd still live here until I died or chose to sell." Jennifer's smile was practiced, sympathetic. "Normally, yes, but there's a clause here about property maintenance. The house has to meet certain standards. I had our inspector come by last week while you were out. The foundation has issues, the roof needs replacing, there's electrical work that doesn't meet current code. The repairs would cost more than $80,000. The bank's position is that you can't afford to maintain the property, which triggers the acceleration clause." "You sent an inspector to my house without telling me?" "We tried to call," Marcus said, and I could hear something in his voice now, something that wasn't quite guilt, but wasn't quite conviction either. "You didn't answer." That was true. I'd been at the community center that day, teaching my Thursday afternoon workshop, the same workshop I'd been teaching for 32 years. Every single Thursday, unless I was sick or out of town. Anyone who knew me knew where I was on Thursday afternoons. But Marcus knew that. He'd even attended once or twice, back when he and Sarah were dating. "So you're saying," I said carefully, "that because of a loan I don't remember taking, and house problems I don't have, I need to sell my home in 30 days? "We're trying to help you, Dad." Marcus sat down across from me, and I saw it then, the way his eyes wouldn't quite meet mine, the rehearsed quality to his words. "The market's good right now. Jennifer says we can get $780,000 for this place, maybe more. After the loan is paid off and the repairs are factored in, you'd still walk away with about $200,000. That's enough for a nice apartment, something manageable. No yard work, no maintenance, you could relax." "I don't want to relax," I said. "I want to stay in my home." Jennifer closed her folder with a decisive snap. "Mr. Morrison, I understand this is emotional, but the reality is, the paperwork is solid. My firm has handled dozens of these cases. If you fight this, you'll spend that $200,000 on legal fees and still lose the house. If you work with us, we can make this transition smooth. We've even found a lovely retirement community in Canada. I can arrange a viewing next week." Canada. That was 40 minutes from here, on the other side of Ottawa. Away from my workshop, my neighbors, everything I'd built. "I need to see a lawyer," I said. Marcus stood up quickly. Of course, that's your right. But Dad, please, think about what Sarah would want. She wouldn't want you struggling to keep up this big house. She'd want you comfortable, taken care of. Don't you dare, I thought. Don't you dare use my daughter against me. But I didn't say it. Not yet. Because something about this whole situation felt wrong, and I needed time to think. After they left, I sat in my living room for a long time, looking at the papers they'd left behind. The documents looked official, bank letterhead, legal language I couldn't quite parse, signatures that might have been mine, from a time when I was signing dozens of things every day, desperate to save Sarah. But something was off. I could feel it. I called my lawyer, Tom McGregor, who I'd known for 30 years. He'd handled Catherine's will, Sarah's estate, every legal document I'd needed. His secretary said he was in court but would call me back. While I waited, I walked through my house, really looked at it. The foundation was solid. I'd had it inspected just 2 years ago when I'd noticed a small crack in the basement. $3,000 in repairs, all documented, all done properly. The roof was 7 years old, good for another 15 easily. And the electrical? I'd rewired the entire garage myself 15 years ago when I expanded the workshop space, all permitted, all inspected, all up to code. None of what Jennifer said was true. My phone rang. Tom McGregor. David, what's going on? My secretary said it sounded urgent. I explained everything. The claims about the reverse mortgage, the property inspection, the 30-day deadline. Tom was quiet for a long moment. David, I handled Sarah's entire estate. There was no reverse mortgage. I would have known. I would have had to file paperwork with the land titles office. Let me pull your property records right now. I heard typing, then a longer pause. David, your property title is clear. No liens, no mortgages. It's been free and clear since 2005 when you paid off the original mortgage. What you're describing is fraud. The word hung in the air between us. Are you sure? I asked, even though I'd known. Somewhere deep down, I'd known. I'm looking at the official records right now. Unless someone has forged documents, which is a serious crime, there's no legal basis for any of this. Where are you right now? Don't sign anything else. I'm coming over. Tom arrived an hour later with his associate, a sharp young woman named Lisa Chen, who specialized in real estate fraud. They went through every document Marcus and Jennifer had left. These are good forgeries, Lisa said, photographing each page. They've got the bank logos right, the formatting. But look here. She pointed to a reference number. This isn't how TD Bank structures their file numbers. And this signature? They've tried to copy your signature from somewhere, but the pressure points are wrong. This was signed by someone else, or traced. How would they even get copies of my signature? I asked. Tom looked uncomfortable. Sarah's medical files. Insurance claims. You signed hundreds of documents. Anyone with access to those files could have copied your signature. Marcus would have had access, I said quietly. He handled a lot of Sarah's paperwork toward the end, when I couldn't, when it was too hard. In this inspector's report, Lisa held up another paper. The company doesn't exist. I just checked. The license number is fake. So, what do we do? I asked. We document everything, Tom said, and then we wait. If they're committing fraud, they'll make a move. They'll need you to sign something eventually, something that would actually transfer the property. That's when we catch them. But I didn't want to wait, because there was something else bothering me, something that went beyond the fraud itself. My workshop. For 32 years, every Thursday afternoon from 2 to 6, I'd open my garage to anyone who needed help with their car. It started small, back in 1991, just after I'd retired from the fire department at 55. A single mom from down the street asked if I could help her figure out why her car was making a noise. I fixed it for free, taught her how to check her own oil. Word spread. Soon I had 5 people, then 10, then 20. I taught basic maintenance, how to change brake pads, how to diagnose problems. Most were single parents who couldn't afford mechanic rates. Some were new immigrants who didn't know how to navigate Canadian car ownership. Some were just curious kids who wanted to learn. I never charged $1. Catherine had left me her life insurance. Sarah worked in healthcare and never needed my financial help. I had my fire department pension. What I had was time, knowledge, and a fully equipped garage that sat empty 6 days a week. Over 3 decades, I'd taught hundreds of people. Some just came once to fix a specific problem. Others came every week for years. I watched kids grow up in my garage, learning to change their first spark plug, then their first tire, then rebuilding their first engine. One of those kids, Jamie Henderson, now owned 3 auto shops across Ottawa. Another, Priya Subramanian, had become a mechanical engineer at Magna. Last year, she'd come back to visit, told me how watching me diagnose a transmission problem when she was 16 had made her realize she wanted to design cars for a living. This wasn't just my house. It was a community hub. 23 people had called me in the last month alone, asking when the next workshop was, what tools they needed to bring, if I could help them with their winter tires before the snow flew. If I lost the house, I lost the workshop. And not just for me, for everyone who depended on it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus, about how he'd looked at me. The Sarah I knew, the daughter I'd raised, she would never have approved of this. She'd loved this house, loved what I did here. After Catherine died, Sarah used to joke that I'd started an accidental trade school in my garage. "You're teaching people to fish, Dad," she'd said once, watching me help a teenage boy replace his first battery. That's better than any charity. So why would Marcus think he could take this away? What had changed? At 2 a.m., it hit me. Money. It was always money. I got up, went to my computer, did something I rarely did. I Googled Marcus's name with financial problems. What I found made my stomach turn. Marcus worked in real estate development. 3 years ago, just before Sarah died, he'd invested heavily in a condo project in Barhaven. The project had failed. The developer went bankrupt. According to a news article from last year, Marcus and several other investors were still tied up in lawsuits, trying to recover their losses. He needed money. And my house, in Ottawa's hot real estate market, was worth nearly $800,000. But he couldn't just ask me. He knew I'd say no, knew I'd never sell this place while I was still healthy enough to maintain it and run my workshop. So he'd created a crisis. A fake loan, a fake inspection, pressure to sell quickly before I could dig too deep. The question was Jennifer Holbrook, the real estate agent, in on it? Or was she just doing what she'd been told, working off fake documents Marcus had provided? Tom called me the next morning. I contacted the Law Society. Jennifer Holbrook is a licensed realtor, but she's got 3 complaints against her for aggressive tactics with elderly clients. Nothing proven, but there's a pattern. I'm guessing Marcus found her specifically because she's willing to push boundaries. So what's our next move? They're going to pressure you to sign, Tom said. Probably soon. When they do, you call me immediately. Don't sign anything. We need to catch them in the act if we want charges to stick. 2 days later, Marcus showed up with Jennifer and another man. Someone I didn't recognize. Marcus looked tired, stressed. This time, there was no pretense of concern. "Dad, we need to talk seriously. The bank is threatening legal action. If you don't agree to sell voluntarily, they're going to force a sale. You'll lose everything." "What bank?" I asked calmly. I called TD. "They have no record of any loan on this property." Marcus's face went pale, then red. "You called the bank? Dad, why would you do that? You're just making this harder." "Making what harder? Committing fraud?" Jennifer stepped in smoothly. "Mr. Morrison, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Let me call my office, clarify the bank details. There may have been an administrative error." "There's no error," I said. My lawyer checked. "The property title is clear. There is no loan." The third man spoke for the first time. "Mr. Morrison, I'm Carl Stevens. I'm a geriatric care specialist. Marcus asked me to come today because he's concerned about your mental state. These kind of financial confusions, the paranoia, the inability to track documents, they're concerning at your age. Have you considered having a cognitive assessment?" And there it was, the next layer. If I wouldn't cooperate, they'd paint me as incompetent. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. "Dad, get out. All of you. And Marcus? Don't come back. After they left, I stood in my garage, surrounded by tools I'd collected over 40 years. Car lifts I'd installed myself, diagnostic equipment I'd bought piece by piece, the walls covered in photos of people I'd helped, thank you notes, Christmas cards from families who'd sent me updates for decades. This wasn't just about property rights anymore. This was about legacy, about everything I'd built, everything I'd taught, everyone I'd helped. I thought about the people I'd trained, Jamie with his 3 shops, Priya the engineer, Rick Donovan, who'd started as a scared kid with a broken-down Civic and now worked as a mechanic for the city fleet, Maria Santos, who'd been a refugee from the Philippines and now ran her own mobile repair service. Hundreds of people over 32 years. People whose lives I'd touched, who'd learned from me, who'd gone on to help others. I picked up my phone and opened the group chat. I'd started the chat 5 years ago, when everyone kept asking about workshop schedules. It had grown organically. Now there were 183 people in it. Former students, regular workshop attendees, people who just liked staying connected. I typed, "This is David. I need help. Can anyone come to my house tomorrow at 2 p.m.? It's important." The responses came immediately. "What's wrong? Are you okay? I'll be there. What do you need?" Counting me in. Within 10 minutes, 47 people had responded yes. Within an hour, it was 92. By the next morning, 156 people had confirmed they were coming. I called Tom. "I think we need to move this outside. I don't think my living room can hold 156 people." Tom was quiet. "David, what are you doing?" "I'm calling my community," I said. "And I think we should invite the media too." The next afternoon, at exactly 2 p.m., they started arriving. Jamie Henderson pulled up in his tow truck, 3 of his employees with him. Priya came with her husband and 2 kids. Rick drove one of the city maintenance trucks, must have come directly from work. Maria brought her entire crew, 5 guys in mobile repair vans. They kept coming. People I'd taught 20 years ago, now in their 40s. People I'd helped last month, mechanics and engineers and teachers and accountants. A city councilor who I'd taught to change her oil when she was a single mom in her 20s. A retired police sergeant who'd brought his grandson to my workshops for years. They filled my driveway, my lawn, spilled out onto the street. News vans showed up. I'd called CBC and CTV, told them there was a story about elder fraud and community response. Local radio sent someone. And then, right at 2:30, Marcus drove up with Jennifer Holbrook. He got out of his car and stopped dead, staring at the crowd of people filling my property. I walked down from my porch to meet him. Behind me, 156 people went silent, watching. "What is this?" Marcus asked, his voice shaky. "This," I said clearly, making sure the news cameras could hear, "is my family. These are the people I've taught, the people I've helped, over the last 32 years. This is my community." Jennifer had gone pale. She was looking at the cameras, calculating. I continued, louder now. "Yesterday, you tried to convince me to sign over my house based on fraudulent documents. You claimed there was a reverse mortgage that doesn't exist. You brought a fake geriatric specialist to declare me incompetent. You conspired to steal my home through fraud." "That's not I didn't." Marcus was looking around wildly now, seeing all the faces watching him. Some of them he knew. I'd taught Marcus himself in this very garage, helped him learn to maintain Sarah's car. Tom stepped forward, his associate Lisa beside him. "Mr. Brennan, I'm Tom McGregor, Mr. Morrison's lawyer. We have documented evidence of fraud. The property title records, the fake inspection report, the forged signatures. We filed a report with the Ottawa Police Fraud Division, and they're very interested in speaking with you." A police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers got out. I watched Marcus's face cycle through emotions. Panic, anger, then something else, desperation. "You don't understand," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm drowning. That investment, it ruined me. I'm going to lose everything. Sarah would have understood. Sarah would have been ashamed of you," I said, and my voice was steady, cold. "My daughter worked in palliative care. She spent her life helping people in their most vulnerable moments. She would never, ever have approved of you targeting an elderly person with fraud. Even if that person was me. Especially because it was me. One of the police officers stepped forward. "Mr. Brennan, we need you to come with us. We have some questions about fraudulent documents and attempted elder abuse." As they led Marcus away, Jennifer was already backing toward her car. "I was just working off the information I was given," she said quickly. "I didn't know the documents were fake. My client provided them." Lisa called out, "Miss Holbrook, the Law Society would like to speak with you as well. They're very interested in your pattern of cases involving elderly homeowners." After they left, after the police cars drove away, there was a moment of silence. Then someone started clapping. It spread through the crowd, 156 people applauding, and I felt my eyes sting with tears. The CBC reporter came up to me, microphone ready. "Mr. Morrison, can you tell us what happened here?" I looked at the camera. For 32 years, I've run a free automotive workshop from my garage every Thursday. I've taught hundreds of people how to maintain their cars, how to save money, how to understand the machines they depend on. I never charged anyone. I just wanted to help. I gestured to the crowd behind me. These are my students. Some of them learned to change a tire here when they were 16. Some of them now own their own shops. Some are engineers who design the cars we drive. They're mechanics, and teachers, and parents, and professionals. When I needed help, they showed up. Every single one of them. The reporter asked, "What message do you have for other seniors who might be facing similar fraud?" "Don't be ashamed to ask for help," I said. "And remember, family isn't always blood. Family is the people who show up when you need them, the people you've helped, the community you've built. That's real family. That's what matters." That night, my story was on the 6 o'clock news. By morning, it had gone viral. The Ottawa Citizen ran a front-page story. Retired firefighter's 32-year legacy stops elder fraud attempt. CTV National picked it up. Donations started coming in. People wanted to support the workshop, wanted to make sure I could keep teaching. Within a week, there was $67,000 in a fund that had been set up by some of my former students. They'd also started a nonprofit organization to formalize the workshops, make sure they could continue even after I was gone. The police charged Marcus with fraud, forgery, and attempted elder abuse. Jennifer Holbrook lost her real estate license. Turned out I wasn't the only elderly client she'd targeted with questionable tactics. The fake geriatric specialist was actually Marcus's business partner, and he was charged as an accomplice. 3 months later, Tom called me with news. Marcus pleaded guilty. He's getting 2 years house arrest, 5 years probation, and he has to pay $45,000 in restitution court costs, your legal fees, and damages. "I don't want his money," I said. "David, you need to take it. If not for you, then for the workshop fund. Think of it as justice." I thought about that. Thought about Sarah, about what she would want. She'd want the workshop to continue. She'd want people to keep learning, keep being helped. "Fine," I said. "It goes to the workshop fund. Every penny." The following Thursday, my garage was packed. Word had spread. There were 23 people there to learn the usual regulars, plus new faces who'd heard about the story and wanted to be part of something positive. I taught them how to winterize their cars, how to check their antifreeze, how to test their batteries before the cold weather hit. Jamie Henderson was there, helping me teach. So was Priya, showing the kids her Magna employee badge, telling them they could be engineers too if they wanted. After everyone left, I sat in my garage for a while, just looking around, at the tools, the photos, the thank you notes, at the space I'd built over 3 decades. My phone buzzed. A message in the group chat from someone named Daniel Park. "Mr. Morrison, you taught me to change my first oil filter when I was 17. I'm 34 now, and I'm a social worker specializing in elder abuse cases. What Marcus did to you, I'm going to make it my mission to make sure it doesn't happen to others. Thank you for teaching me that family is who shows up." I typed back, "Thank you for showing up." Because that's what it was all about, really. Not the house, not the property value, not even the workshop itself. It was about showing up. For people who needed help, for people who needed teaching, for each other. Marcus had thought he could take my house because I was alone, because I was old, because my daughter was gone, and who else did I have? But he'd been wrong about that. Dead wrong. I had 156 people who showed up, and that number was still growing. That's family. That's what matters. Not blood, not who shares your DNA, but who shares your values. Who shows up when it counts. Who remembers what you taught them and passes it on to others. I'd spent 32 years teaching people to fix their cars, but what I'd really been teaching them was something else entirely. I'd been teaching them to show up, and they'd learned that lesson better than I could have ever hoped.